This podcast. It's your host, the real Ed Oliver. I'm going to react to Wes Unseld Jr.'s presser, go over some quotes and evaluate, kind of do a quick report card on Wes Unseld Jr.'s rookie season, and we're going to talk about what Tommy Shepard revealed on the Team 980 about on a Team 980 on the radio about the Washington Wizards point guard approach. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington. You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. All right, so right after Tommy Shepard had his exit interview press conference, Wes Unseld Jr. had his presser. So I do want to evaluate his first season. So this is Wes's first year as a head coach, and he kind of had a honeymoon period. He started out really fast, 10-3, started to a hot start. Guys were getting extensions. Tommy Shepard got an extension. Guys were getting promoted and praised from Ted Leonsis. Wizards fans, we had a banner. We were talking about 50 wins, and they were really winning games by defense, tough defense. West was preaching defense. Training camp, majority was you heard the practices were 80% defense, 20% offense. West looked good making adjustments. I remember one game he put Denny in for offense. He would sub him in. I forgot who he would sub out. And they just won a lot of close games. The first game of the season, that Raptors game, which was what Wes Unseld Jr. said was his highest point of the season, which was his favorite moment of the season, was that Raptors game. Going into Toronto, beating them by 10-plus points, holding them under 100 points. Then we won the overtime game against the Celtics, the double overtime game against the Pacers. They just won a lot of close games, but it was primarily on the defensive side of the ball. And the offensive game still wasn't there yet. And then after that 10-3 start, it just went downhill. Players started to complain about the offense, excuse me, and their roles, and talking about adjustments. Montrezl Harrell, we heard him talk about press conference, feeling that we just don't make adjustments. And Spencer Dinwiddie talking about his role and saying he doesn't know what his role was. And of course, he had his comments after he left. And then there's the rumors about prisoners running the asylum with Wes Unseld Jr. So there's a lot to learn from him, but I do want to get into some quotes here. First one that stood out to me, we're going to talk about the identity, then we'll talk about the point guard position, then we'll talk about what Tommy Shepard said on 980 about his point guard approach, some things that he revealed, kind of playing his hand, kind of playing his cards about how they're going to attack the point guard position or what he sees in the point guard position coming up. But Wes was asked about what does he want to see the team's identity moving forward, and it basically echoed what Tommy Shepard said, which was an up-tempo team and a defensive-minded team. Now, the team did regress from last year under Scott Brooks. They were 20th in defensive efficiency. We know last year they weren't a great defensive team either. They did make the playoffs, but Daniel Gafford was a huge part in them being better defensively towards that last half of the year where they made the playoff push with Brad and Russ and Alex Len, Robin Lopez, and Rui, and all those cast of characters last year. But this year, the defense definitely tailed off. It was good in the beginning. Then guys, the offense wasn't there, and it just tailed off from there. You had games like Josh Hart putting up 44 points, Christian Wood hitting 8 threes, LeBron had 50 points, Jason Tatum had 50 points. There was multiple guys that just had their career highs against the Washington Wizards, especially in the second half of the year as well. So they regressed that way. They regressed in that department defensively. West is a defensive-minded head coach, so that is definitely something that you want to see the Wizards improve on. Also, I brought up the stat yesterday that they gave up 68% in the restricted area in the paint, so that's 28% in the league. So second to last, and then the up-tempo part that he wanted to bring up, or that they want to have their identity, they were second to last in fast break points. So they were basically a slow, methodical team that didn't defend well this year at all. So that's something they really need to work on, and that's something on Wes's report card as well. Talking about they want to be up tempo, defensive minded. That's two categories that they did not show well statistically in watching the games, you can also see that as well. Another thing, Wes connecting with players. I think that's something that we want to see, or that we've heard. We heard the rumblings coming out of the locker room. Just having a control or being a leader of men. That's something that watching Wes needs to improve on. Having that locker room, it was the rumblings of it being a toxic locker room. Montrezl Harrell getting in an altercation with KCP, Davies, and Danny getting into an altercation. Then Spencer Dinwiddie leaving and talking about his role. It was West took the high road, of course. It kind of looked like a he said she said kind of thing where West said that he told Spencer to be aggressive. He told him to be aggressive every time, and Spencer trotted out names of saying that they wanted him to pass the ball to KCP and Kyle Kuzma. But this is a quote here from Wes talking about what did he learn the most. Coach Wes Unseld Jr. on what did he learn about himself after his first full season as a head coach. He says that, quote, that he had more patience than he thought he had, and to control things that you can control. So yeah, being a people person, you have to have a lot of patience with guys. You have to build a relationship with guys. You have to connect with the players. You have to, get guys to buy in defensively, get guys to buy into the system. And there's also players complaining in press conferences about the offense being too complicated as well. So that's something as well that they had to work on. And I think it did get better towards the end of the season as well. But I do want to talk about some individual player performances, individual players that West did talk about that he liked. He did talk about Rui, did talk about Corey Kispert a little bit. He did talk about Denny as well. And then also Wes Unseld Jr. said that he wants some feedback to be a better coach, talking about exit meetings, talking with the players. So it shows that he's learning. He's still learning. He's rookie head coach. He wants to get better and learn from the players what he wants to get, feedback from them. He also said that he met with 80% of the Wizards players for exit meetings and describes the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. So that's good to hear going into the off season. So I do want to get into what he said about Rui, Corey, and Denny. But before we do get into that, this episode is brought to you by Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoff, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks for making Locked On Wizards your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. All right, so this is a quote about Rui Hachimura talking about his season. He says he thinks Rui had an incredible season. To see him pick things up, talking about how Rui did miss the first part of the year. He did miss 40 games coming in, and he still played really well. He raised his three-point percentage. You look at Rui's three-point percentage, he shot about 40% from the three-point line, 44% from the three-point line, which is insane. Even though he shot three-pointers per game, but that's still something definitely to write home about. Just showing how he improved. You look at the years before. In 2021, last year, he shot 32% from the three, and then he shot 28% from the three in 2020. So that was huge improvement from Rui that he added to the mid-range game. And that really helped Rui out this year. And then he improved. You see the last 5 of the last 8 games, Rui had 20 points or more in the last 5 or 8 games. So Rui did show some leaps there, but West did also talk about his defense as well. But he just commended, quote, Rui being able to get up to speed after missing some time. He had minute restrictions and limitations, and then he became a starter towards the end of the year. He expanded out to the three-point line. He showed versatility on the pick and roll and articulating different defensive coverages out there as well. So that is good about Rui Hachimura. Also, he was quoted talking about Denny. Somebody asked about Denny's development and playmaking as well. And he said Denny is shooting the ball with more confidence, needs to work on his left hand and finishing. And he had turnovers once his usage rate went up, end quote. Also about Corey Kispert that I wanted to bring up. He said Corey had to find minutes and then turned into a starter. He liked that a lot. He broke the rookie three-pointers made record, making over 100 threes in his rookie year. And then also addressing the point guard position, Wes Unseld said that they need a point guard that can keep us organized. They don't need a point guard to orchestrate everything. Also about the point guard position, he says somebody at the point of, they need somebody at the point of attack that can guard the basketball, that can help out and pick and roll and orchestrate the offense, and they don't have to orchestrate everything. So, basically he echoed everything that Tommy Shepard has said about the point guard position. They just want somebody that can get them and initiate the offense. Basically, somebody like what Satoransky was able to do towards the end of the year. But West did decide to play. He did have Neto out there playing a lot, who is more of a combo guard. So it was interesting. I did write some things that I saw this year that I thought that West definitely could improve on from an adjustment standpoint. Some of the things that not strikes, but kind of some things that you can clearly look at and West needs to improve on. You look at the Clippers game where they lost. They had the 35-point lead and they lost that game. You look at Tyronn Lue; he was able to make adjustments. Eric Bledsoe didn't play well. I'm sorry, not Eric Bledsoe, but Reggie Jackson didn't play well. Zubac wasn't playing well. A lot of their starters, Batum wasn't playing well, but a lot of their starters for the Clippers weren't playing well. And then Wes Unseld Jr. made adjustments. Or Tyronn Lue made adjustments while Wes Unseld Jr. did not make adjustments. He kept those same guys out there. Spencer Dinwiddie was out there for way too long when he needed to sit, and the Clippers took advantage of that. Inbounds plays are something that the Wizards really, really struggled with. They had a 5-second violation in that Clippers game. It felt like they struggled a lot with inbounds plays. Like, what is the reason for a guy's not set or guys not ready after a timeout? There were some times after a timeout where they still got a 5-second violation or they turn the ball over on an inbounds plays. And I feel like that does come to coaching and drawing up plays, communication and telling guys where to go, especially after a timeout. I think that's inexcusable. The whole thing with showcasing, I don't know if that was his hand or Tommy Shepard's hand. That's just a disconnect there. I think they need to be on the same page, or they were on the, West wanted to play some guys and Tommy wanted them to play another. The whole thing with Daniel Gafford, Montrezl Harrell, and Thomas Bryant. A lot of guys came back, so I see it was hard on him. West wasn't dealt the best cards either. There's a lot of guys and a lot of Eagles on that roster, and there was a log jam in some spots. There was a log jam at the center position. There was a log jam at the wing spot. They did have guys out with the virus a couple of times. Daniel Gafford was out. Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma missed time as well. But you can't always use that as an excuse. Now, they did have a lot of roster turnover and a roster changing. Brad Wanamaker had to come in and play. Tremont Waters came in and played point guard as well. So there wasn't a lot of cohesion. And there was a lot of different rosters. It wasn't a five. I know Tommy Shepard brought up there was a stat where they didn't have the same five guys play or a starting five or the same five guys play 75 minutes together. So I know that wasn't easy for them, but there's other teams that go through that as well. And they struggle with rotations, I feel like West definitely struggled with some rotations. When guys got hot, he pulled them out. If Rui got hot, pulled him out, didn't let him cook, or say Denny had a good game, pulled him out, didn't let him cook. So those are some indictments on him, the whole showcasing thing. And then the question mark for me, does he need an experienced assistant coach out there? A lot of guys on the staff, they have never been head coaches. You look at some other teams, Chauncey Billups. I know a lot of people aren't fans of Scott Brooks, but Scott Brooks is an assistant coach for him. A lot of other coaches, a lot of first year head coaches have, assistant head coaches to help them out. Chauncey Billups has an assistant coach who, like I said, Scott Brooks being his assistant coach. You look at other teams that have Steve Nash, look at his staff. He has Kenny Atkinson and Mike D'Antoni and so many other guys that have been head coaches before. Steve Nash has, Mike D'Antoni as his assistant coach. So there's just a lot of guys that have never been a head coach. So, is Wes a guy that can get guys in order? Can he be that bad guy? Can he be the bad cop and get guys in order? I know before the season even started, Montrezl Harrell had a players only meeting, and I liked it. I actually liked it, but now looking back on it in hindsight, why did the guys feel inclined to have a players only meeting? And then you see all these things happen throughout the season and guys not getting along and the whole locker room thing just being toxic. And then the report saying that nobody likes Spencer Dinwiddie. So it definitely was a lot of ups and downs. I know Tommy Shepard said something about Wes going through hell, but all other teams go through it, and it happens. It happens. I do feel like I wrote down some notes too. I do feel like Wes Unseld Jr. definitely could have staggered Spencer Dinwiddie and Bradley Beal's minutes. You saw how Spencer played better while Brad wasn't there. It just wasn't a good fit, and that's on the GM too, and an evaluation as well. Those guys did not play well together. But I do feel like Wes definitely could have stepped up and had Spencer come off the bench. I thought he could have experimented a little bit more and tried that. Definitely feel like he could have did that. Um, so yeah, like I said before, you had the guys coming out in different press conferences talking about the offense and it being complicated, and Montrez saying give a squirrel a nut or blind squirrel a nut. But a lot of those guys aren't on the roster anymore. But it is telling on just what they went through throughout the season. The 10-3 start, they were a defensive minded team. They were winning tough, grinded out clutch games, and then the defense tailed off. The offense got a little bit better, and then it just wasn't a fit for guys. And then the whole showcasing thing, and then the rails just kind of went off. Nobody was able to get a rhythm because they just had so many guys that they were trying to play. And then when some guys were out with the virus, it actually, Kyle Kuzma got better. He got more playing time. Him and Brad, were like, oh, is Kyle Kuzma the second option? And then we had point guard Bradley Beal. So it was just an up and down season. Bradley Beal just looked better out there when it was just him and Kuz and the other guys, and he was playing point Bradley Beal. But we know Bradley Beal's not. He's not his primary thing is not being the point guard. But if he has to do it, he had to go out there and do it, just because we did not have that solidified point guard out there initiating and running the offense. But I do want to get to a couple more quotes and then what Tommy Shepard revealed about the point guard position. But before we do get to that, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. These are going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs included. 100% real chocolate. Go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away. High protein, low cal, high fiber, and low carbs. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating question like, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right. So the plan, I just want to get to playing games too, as well. As you guys saw, the Spurs did lose, so that's not good for us. We will have the 10th best lottery odds to touch on that. So we will have about a 10% chance to get into the top four. So that's not good at all, but it is what it is. We just got to evaluate correctly and draft better. Now, Tommy Shepard, what he said on Team 980. He said that most likely we will be going through free agency or via trade to find a point guard, and we will most likely not be using the draft, which is intriguing to me because I don't think anybody thought that we were going to use the draft to find a starting point guard, especially if you look at the options that are out there. You look at Ty Washington, just to name a guy, or Kennedy Chandler, Those are some of the guys that are going to be available. Those are the better point guards. Some people say Dyson Daniels, and even Ty, he's more of a combo guard as well. When I watch him play, it does remind me of Tyrese Maxey. I guess it's an easy take to say because they both went to Kentucky. They're both, 6'1", 6'2" guards that are small, that can get to the basket, have a nice floater game, can shoot the three, got a mid range game, pick and roll game, can get downhill a little bit. So they do remind me of each other. They're solid ball handlers. They can initiate an offense. They're good passers. And I think Ty is going to be a good pro. I think Kennedy Chandler is going to be a good pro. When I watch Kennedy and I watch Ty, I really don't see much of a big difference. And when they actually went to head, Ty won the first matchup, and then Kennedy won the second matchup. Now, keep in mind about Ty didn't play well in the St. Peter's game, but he did play well in the first half of the year. He did have an ankle injury, and after the ankle injury, he just didn't play. He was very inconsistent after the ankle injury, so that's why I do give him some of the benefit of the doubt, but I just don't see Tommy Shepard giving the keys to the car and putting that much pressure on a rookie point guard. I just don't think that's a formula for success. So I do agree with him on that take. Do you want to play your cards and play your hand? Not necessarily, but that if Ty is best available at pick 10 or pick 11 or whatever pick they get, then I don't mind them taking him at all. There's a sleeper guy that I do like is Malachi Branham. I'll talk about prospects later from Ohio State. He's not a point guard either. He's more of a shooting guard. He's more of a combo guard, but we've seen him initiate offense. And then also my dream pick, excuse me, is Jaden Ivey. So if they do get a top 4 pick, then that would be the pick for me. 110%. 110%. All right, so let me see here if there's any more quotes here that I did want to get to before we wrap up about Wes. Let's see here. Oh yeah, he says you don't need a guy to orchestrate everything. Having playmakers is important for the point guard position. So just be ready for a point guard by committee if they do strike out on some of the big names that were brought up on NBC Sports Washington. Just prepare yourself for that. Like I said, maybe a Tyus Jones or somebody like that, just a point guard that can run the offense and get guys in spots. Definitely so. And West said opportunity was a big piece, and young Wizards plays improving. A lot of guys did get opportunity towards the end of the year, so I was happy to see that. Wes Unseld Jr. also says he likes where the offense is, but he says the Washington Wizards have to improve on the defensive side. What's the identity to be the defensive minded, like I already said before. All right, so before the weekend starts, let's get into some of these playing game picks, and then we'll wrap it up here, and then you guys enjoy your weekend. So Friday night is, because there's no games on tonight. Friday night is Hawks versus Cavs. The Cavs are at home. I think the Hawks got some momentum. I think the Hawks win that game. I think Trae Young pulls it in for that one. I got Trae Young going for about 30 points against the Cavs. The Cavs are playing good ball. I mean, Kevin Love he was ridiculous the other night when they lost to the Nets. He was playing really well. Pelicans Clippers. I'm gonna go with the Clippers beating the Pelicans. I got the Hawks beating the Cavs. Those are my picks. But you guys let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Also doing a mailbag episode next week. So if you have any questions, please comment down below in the comment section on YouTube, or leave your comments on Twitter as well, on the Locked On Wizards Twitter page. So I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with your insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. Make sure you guys subscribe to Locked On Wizards on YouTube and hit the notification bell. Hail to the Wizards.